All right. I think we got it finally working. This was a pain in the ass to get the chat assistant over here to take in human input and continue the conversation because we're using async methods, which means we're not doing it sequentially. We don't have to wait for an operation to finish before something else starts. It can start while something else is waiting. And that's a lot of communication, a lot of problems. So we finally figured it out. So now we have our land graph backend speaking to our checkpointer PostgreSQL async, which is now going through here and updating the information correctly. So here's your user experience. So you would go, let's say you get an email for a job, and they always put all this stuff in here that they like. This is a really simple one. I'll try different ones, but here's one right here. So you just copy the description of the job, and you would go into your chat assistant window, and you paste it here, and then you run. Now it's doing a lot of thinking in the back end here, so it might seem like it's taking a few minutes, and maybe instead of AI is thinking, I'll say what it's actually doing at some point. But it's basically going through and analyzing everything. Okay, so now here's the big feature that I added and was a pain in the ass with the human input. So a lot of times with other resume websites that I've used, they would do like a single pass. So they would take your resume information, put it through the LLM, and the LLM would say, okay, this is what you should put in your resume. Instead, what we're doing here is we're doing a step where we're getting a clarification from the bot before it decides what skills you should add or not add. So there's a couple ways to do this, but what it's basically doing is just trying to make sure that you're not putting skills in that you don't really have. So for example, like this Lalama index, I really don't have that skill. So I'm not gonna say I have that. I'm gonna say no. But for like reg architecture, yes, and the rest of these, I do. But before, it might suggest that this is like a skill that I have. Now, what we're gonna try to do with this is we're gonna try to remember this. I don't think I got that feature working. That's another day. But what's going to happen is it's going to remember that you said no here. So the next time that skill comes up again in a certain time period, then it won't ask you again. That's the goal. So it's going to start to learn about you and your skills, so it doesn't have to keep asking you these questions over and over again. So we got that. Hugging Face, Azure, prompt engineering, yes. Working with embeddings and fine-tuning models, yes. Okay, so I'm going to submit my answers. Okay, now it's running again in the back end. Okay, so now we're back to the print where you saw before, where it comes up with its suggestions now to actually update resume. So I'll just scroll to the top for now. So this is going to be our bullet point. It's a highly relevant. Okay, so this is for my work experience. So we're going to change my employment responsibility text from architected and deployed. So I believe it's this one right here. We're going to change it to this. So everything in red now becomes green. So they just find ways to change words around. And what do you see here? Son of a bitch. All right, we're going to have to fix that. That's the whole point. That's why I didn't want to say that. So this here, change to employment responsibility, or this step in general, is going to need to understand what skills I've denied or accepted. And I don't think that feature is working yet. And so because that feature's not working yet, it didn't, even though I said no, it didn't know not to add this here. So we're gonna have to have this scan look up those denied skills that we said, so it doesn't accidentally put them in here, even though it says it should. So anyways, we'll say accept, And then we would go through, and you see these skills down here. We can add the skills that we need. So it's adding them for this particular resume. Now that's not a big deal. I think a lot of the other ones do that too, but the key is to be accurate. And I think that's what I'm trying to focus on more. So we got that. Right. Okay. I think this is the part I wanted to show too. Is this the professional summary? No. Yeah, this is the professional summary up here. So this is blank right now. So we're going to go ahead and add this. There. And there you go. That's a pretty targeted resume now. And it's honest too. Like, it didn't go through and change everything, right? It didn't go through and, just add a whole bunch of BS to make your resume correct, even though that's not honest. So it's trying to be honest and also update your resume. And I think that's what's important about it. But again, the problem is we still added in this Llama index, even though we know we don't use Llama index. So I just got to make sure that this area back here, when it suggests that, it's also verifying that, that it's not something we said we don't really have yet. So I'll have to work on that next, but it's looking good. So I just wanted to give an update. This was a pain in the ass to get that human input in there. And, but you see, it also didn't, in the skills area, it never asked me if I had Llama index. So that's good too, because that means it did recognize somewhere that, that's not a skill that we need to add. But the problem is that it's not recognizing it up here yet. So we'll have to work on that. So we're almost there, almost ready for some beta testing, I think. Once I fix that, I think we'll pretty much be good to go. A few more tweaks here and there, and then looking forward to guys' feedback, trying it out. All right, I'm out.